Everyone thinks that they know what an authentic Santa looks like. You can list out the traits, the red suit, the white beard, the rosy cheeks. But our question, does what the suit and the beard actually look like change your perception? We made people choose between dozens of different versions to see what separates the Santas that feel warm and magical from the ones that feel off.
Which Santa feels the most authentic to you?
We made it through the holiday season. How was your Christmas?
We survived. The kids had a good time. Glad to be done with the travel and the hosting. Love seeing family, but I've had enough. It's time to move on and get back to work.
Personally, I love the family time and especially Christmas dinner. I think that's the best part. So we ran this test on what the authentic Santa looks like. I'd like to talk about the results, what our expectations were, our setup, and go through that. So I was the one who kind of took the reins on constructing these boards.
Good fun. I caught that. I like that.
I broke it up into 3 categories. We have more of the vintage illustration, we have the historical Santas, more the Saint Nick depiction, and then we have the more photorealistic AI-generated images. I wanted those categories to be separate so that we could really see what the reasoning behind picking those images were. What did you expect people to choose as the most authentic Santas?
We had a suspicion that the AI-generated imagery in particular would have ranked low for authenticity.
Personally, I prefer the AI images just because I think that those included elements like the reindeer and the sleigh and the presents that we can't always stage for pictures. But I thought that the mall Santas might do better just because they were actual tangible people.
The AI Santas performed surprisingly well. I really thought when you showed these to me that those were going to be, people weren't going to respond well to them, but actually those ranked pretty high. And the mall Santas, I didn't know what to think of that, but they were, I don't know, I find mall Santas kind of creepy personally. I can't imagine I'm alone in that, but they were split down the middle for the most part. A lot of them ranked medium, not great, but medium. And a couple of them ranked really, really low. I was curious to see what the results on those in particular would be. But that was about the extent of our speculation. It was also curious the St. Nicholas pictures. So I was curious to see how those shook out when people responded to them.
I thought that the drawings and the older, more grainy depictions were going to do well, but some of the AI ones did well too, which kind of surprised me.
So here's the results. We have our 3 boards. This is your first board, the one you put together that had primarily the illustrations. Again, looking at it with an art history background, a design history background, I would describe these as kind of mid 20th century to late 20th century. These looking a little 90s to me, maybe a little later than that, but a lot of these looking like 1950s illustrations. I know there's some AI stuff in here, but the really interesting one to me is the Coca-Cola Santa, because that depiction really solidified and codified this is what Santa looks like on a global scale. There's a lot written about that, and so that one was particularly interesting to me, and we'll come back to that.
I personally, in the younger generation, didn't even know that. So when I was taking this test, I didn't realize that Santa had a connection to Coca-Cola. So I think maybe the older audience who took this test may have been the people who put positive dots on there, and then people who were unaware of that history didn't.
Yeah, it's possible. I wonder if people who are aware of that marked it negative because they've kind of rationalized through that this is a commercial thing and it isn't authentic, right? But if you're not aware of it, what did you rank it as? Do you put a green or a red dot on it? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I may have put a red dot on it, but I know that I put a red dot on other ones before that.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible that the Coca-Cola object itself was the clue that this is commercial or not, but it's interesting that it's contested. That was interesting to me. I can anchor that and kind of see, all right, the people who put green on that, if I come down to my resonance and resistance here, the results are going to be a little bit different based on that anchoring. But let's come back to that. I'm going to leave it open for now. Here we have the second board, the more historically informed ones, but a lot of AI generated ones that you can see rank surprisingly high. These two in particular stand out to me, number 2 and 5.
I thought that the historical depictions using AI weren't going to rank well. Um, so the fact that Swatch 2 and Swatch 5 did nearly perfect in the
Yeah, they
positive
were 100% green almost, yeah.
really surprised me because I thought that the middle depiction, Swatch 4, 8, and 7 were going to do the best. But 4 did the opposite, which I was really surprised by.
Yeah, so what this tells me is that we're reaching a place for such a traditional subject matter as Santa Claus, for such a global, seasonal, romanticized topic as this, right? AI did not make a difference because we have AI that ranks really high, and then we have two AI that rank really, really low. It wasn't a factor, which that itself is really interesting and a conclusive thing that we can take moving into AI generated imagery moving forward and say, at least for this subject matter of Santa Claus, which is such a traditional thing, it doesn't matter. That does not shape how people perceive authenticity. It's more narrative based. It's more contextualized than that. So interestingly enough, we have Scottish Santa here ranked really, really poorly. In the AI analysis that we did of the results, it pointed out that this is likely because what that does is it takes away the universality that we all think of with Santa Claus, right? He travels the whole world bringing presents all over the planet of all different cultures. And when you isolate him to a specific region by the clothes that he's wearing, that subtracts something, at least for our audience here in the United States. So that was a really interesting observation that we can make based on this test. And then we have some contested ones, right? These are more traditional St. Nicholas. You see the bishop's hat, and they're fairly contested, and those might divide along religious segmentation. But this is the surprise. We have this really. You've probably seen this one before. This is kind of a classic Christmas card. It looks very familiar to me. If I haven't seen this exact one when I was growing up, I saw something very close to it. But it ranked 100% positive, and you can see it shows the bishop going to windows and kids in the windows. So there were some surprises in here. One of the things we identified was that if the animal is wrong, it ranked really, really low. So you can see here he's got a donkey, and that is universally negative with our audience. And so our last board here are the photorealistic Santas, and it warmed my heart to see. I'm going to hide the dots here so we can see who we're dealing with here. But like I grew up watching the Tim Allen movie, The Santa Claus. I don't know if you realize that when you put it in there or not, but that's Tim Allen, and he was split. But I'll take it. At least it wasn't negative. But you can see this gentleman right here with his arms around the two reindeers. I don't know what it is about that one, but it struck me as a little iffy.
Putting that one in, I thought it was going to do well just because it was a real photograph and it had that vintage aesthetic to it. Plus, the reindeer seemed comfortable with Santa, so I was like, oh, that could be perceived as authentic and real. But I think everybody disagreed with me.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, those reindeers are stuffed. They're not real. They're dead. So that's probably a contributing factor here. Again, the really interesting ones to me are this highly staged one. This might be AI. It's pretty good. It might be like an old, very, very staged, well done photograph too. I think it's AI though. It's hard to tell sometimes. This one's definitely AI. And those ranked fairly well. This one's definitely AI and it ranked really, really well. The ones that did negative were actually the real ones where it's, older guys dressed up in cheesy suits sitting in vintage photos, right? I mean, this could be at a bar or something. It's probably at a mall, but there's something about it that gives me a real 80s vibe. I mean, that's when I grew up. This is what I would have grown up seeing. And it does have a little bit of a creepy factor for me personally. It seems like other people shared that. The other things that stand out on this board, I think this is one of the most informative out of the group, is that if we stick Santa on the wrong animal, whether he's riding a horse or if we go back to the donkey, that is something that the AI picked up on was a defining factor, that it needs to be the proper context. It needs to be reindeers. That's the narrative, the myth that we believe, even if just on an emotional level. And this one right here, so 15, if we turn these off so we can see it a little bit better, Rudolph doesn't rank well. There is a history there. The first time that Rudolph appears is in a ad in the 1930s, late 1930s, and he's been a pretty commercial character ever since. And so I think subconsciously, at least, there's something about that character. We know the claymation thing from the 50s or 60s, whenever that was made, but it doesn't feel traditional historical the way the other Santa Claus do. The things that rank really, really well, like universally well, seem a little more timeless. I would even say in some cases medieval, where it touches on the actual history of Saint Nicholas. Not that he was medieval, but a little later as the story develops, it feels traditional to us. It feels older than the marketing stuff of the 20th century, and to us, it's believable on a mythological level, and that's really interesting to me.
And then also, when we go through our comparison arrays, we discovered the pattern in the resonance array that people really resonated with the Santas who were doing activities that feel authentic to the story behind who Santa is. So he's either checking the naughty and the nice list, or he's giving presents to children, doing activities that we familiarize with the idea of Santa.
Yeah, that was another pattern that the AI identified, and I think rightly so. Each one of these, he's fairly active. He's engaging with children. I guess you could argue these two, he's just kind of standing there, kind of posed, but he's reading the list. He has a reindeer that he's feeding. He's climbing into chimneys. He's dragging presents around, but he's doing stuff. He's doing Santa-y things, where these are really passive. He's just kind of there. The pattern I see though is more. He seems more active. He seems more engaged in being Santa Claus. These being the outliers. The negative one, it's really the wrong animal, or the dead animal, or the highly illustrative ones, or the highly cultural ones. These felt off for people. The contested ones are always interesting to me. We have this labeled as neutral, but really we need to change that to be contested. This is where people were kind of split down the middle, and that's where we can do anchoring to zoom in. Okay, people who liked the Coca-Cola one, what else did they like and dislike? And that's where some of the real insights come from, and we can start to think about different groups of people based on identified taste, rather than self-disclosed, I fit into this particular demographic category or something along those lines.
I think other future tests that we do, that anchoring ability will be really important.
Yeah. So the AI analysis was really pretty good, and anybody can go to our website and see this. Should stay pretty high in the feed for a while, but you can see we have the breakdown of the score for each individual swatch in the resonance array, and I think this was at 75%, so fairly high. And again, you can see the patterns here. Worth reading through. I thought the analysis that it did was really good. Some of the insights we've been talking about came out of this. The AI insight was really powerful. I think the narrative insight is paramount, and visual storytelling is so important, and this just reinforces that. I think we all know that, but using this tool to find out how to do it given a particular subject matter, I think this is a great case study for that. And the fact that people still respond positively to Santa Claus, we can see that when we hit the emergence button and you see where the dots place. It's a pretty good sign, based on all the tests that we've done, that the green dots dropped first. That tells me that people's general sentiment towards the idea of Christmas and Santa Claus is positive overall. They didn't lead with the negative. So I might be the only Scrooge and Grinch that doesn't care so much for Christmas, doesn't believe in Santa Claus. Even my daughter, we've taught her the history of Santa Claus, and we don't tell her that he's climbing in our windows or down our chimney or whatever. And she tells all her friends that Santa Claus is in heaven. That's her way of saying passed on. So maybe I'll lighten up on that with our son, who's a bit younger, but that's my takeaway is people still get a lot of joy this time of year, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that we differ in that I was really excited for the holiday season and holiday spirit and the magic of it all.
You can read the full report from this study at constellations.app. While you're there, explore how Constellations helps creative teams gain clarity, or share an idea you'd like us to explore in a future study.